In this video, former Indian international Deep Dasgupta gives 6 tips on how you can improve your batting against spin. Let's go.
Playing spin, obviously that's a major thing, right? One of the most important things to play spin, again, apart from the fact that whatever your trigger movement is, and ideally speaking, very few players, they have a very exaggerated trigger movement for spin. So more often than not, it's more like a front foot press, and that's about it. Very few people I've seen would go back and across to spin. So generally, if you have a trigger movement, if you want a trigger movement, stick with the front foot press with the spinners or against the spinners. The most important part is to see the release of the spinner. He'll give you so many clues, obviously, in terms of whether the ball's turning, it's not turning, it's a straighter one, whether it's a googly or a leg spin. Release is imperative. So you have to pick up which way the ball will turn or might turn more often than not from the release point. The seam position, again, is a great indicator of whether the ball's going to turn or not. For example, an off spinner, if the seam is straight up, chances are it's not going to turn, it's going to go on straight with the arm. If it's somewhere towards the fine leg, it will turn. Side spin, again, or undercut, if you can't see the seam nice and upright, chances are it'll fall on the leather part and it's going to skid through and it's not going to turn. So it's very, very important. The most important thing to play spin is to see the release, and you'll get almost 80-90%, if not 100% of the clues from the release point itself. Now, you've got to have one out of these 2 shots to be successful against spin. 1, stepping out. 2, or the other option rather, is the sweep. Let's start with the stepping out thing, attacking the spinner, because the chances are, if you don't use your feet, you're not stepping out or you're not sweeping, you're stuck and playing from the crease, you're gone. Very, very little chance. Now, for stepping out, the most important part is obviously to see the trajectory. And now, what we've been taught, and it's obviously is foolproof to a great extent, is the trajectory. If you see the ball actually going higher than the release point, then you know for sure it's a fuller delivery and it's slower, it has a bigger loop. You can reach it, you can use your feet. So practice that in the nets. Try and see if the ball, after releasing, has it gone over and above the line of the release point. So if it's gone up, try and see that. More often than not, you will be able to reach it by using your feet and get to the pitch of the ball. So that becomes very, very important. The other important thing is, against spin, you try and play with the spin. If you figure out it's an off spinner and it's going to turn, it's an off spin, then chances are, or you'll be better off trying to play it with the turn towards the onside rather than trying to play against the turn, right? That's what the bowler would want you to do. The spinner would want you to play against the turn. Same with a leg spinner. If you see it's a leg spinner, try not to play against the turn towards the onside. Try and play with the turn towards the offside, unless it's a googly, obviously. If you have to play against the turn, the best shot, horizontal bat shot. That's how we come to the second option, which is the sweep shot. And sweep shot is so dangerous because when do you sweep? You sweep, and which deliveries do you sweep? You sweep a good length delivery, right? So you go in front and you sweep a good length delivery. So that makes it that much more painful for the bowler, because the bowler's bowled a good ball. He's hit the right area, but he's still gone for runs. Now, for the sweep, there are so many things, but the most important part is obviously picking up the line and the length. That goes without saying. And then the other thing is, I've seen a lot of batters whose body weight stays behind. So when the body weight stays behind, and as you can see, my head is behind right now, I will never get on top of, chances I will not get on top of the bounce. I'll always get under the bounce. And secondly, I don't have my pads on, but when I have my pads, my hands will be here, somewhere here where the pads are. So they will be restricted. The bat flow will be restricted. Now, for me to have a good clean swing of the bat, I'll have to get my head over my front leg so I can reach the ball and have a free access to the ball with my hands, right? The moment my head is back, My hands, even though they are outstretched, will always be restricted with the pads, and I'll be hitting under the ball, not over the ball. So if you're hitting in the air, a slog sweep, that's fine. Then you have to kind of keep your body weight back to get under the ball. But a good sweeper would have that ability to choose and play the shot that he would want to, whether it's slog, under, or over. So for over, you've got to get your head on top of the ball or in front of your front leg, making sure the bat swing comes from up to down on top of the bounce, so you can keep the ball along the ground and control your shot. For that, obviously, like I said, bat goes up and your head stays in front of the front leg, so your hands have easy access to the ball. So these are things you can practice, these two shots. You can have drills, you can ask somebody to chuck balls, and you can sweep. Obviously in the nets you try and do that. In the nets you try and see the trajectory and use your feet and practice that. So these are things that you've got to do, at least one of them. If you have both, then you're a champion player against spin without a question. The other thing is, now wrist spinners, there are a lot of wrist spinners, and there might be days where you have not, you're not picking the wrist spinner. You can't figure out the googly. For example, Rashid Khan is a great example. It's very difficult to pick his googly. So one of the first things that you do is you try and play everything as an incoming delivery. Because if you look at it, then you play percentage cricket. Now what is percentage cricket? If you're playing everything that is coming into you, you're protecting your stumps, you're protecting leg before wicket, right? The only thing you still kind of might not be protecting yourself against would be the outside edge. Now if you're playing for a leg spin or anything which is leaving you, then chances are you've exposed yourself to leg before, bowled, and all other sorts of dismissals. So if you haven't, or you're struggling to pick a bowler, a leg spinner or a wrist spinner particularly, you try and play for the ball coming into you rather than ball leaving you. Chances are if it'll turn and you're playing inside the line, you'll get beaten. Now with the advent of DRS, gone are the days where you could actually use your foot or your leg as a second a second source of protection or second line of protection. It's all about bat. So it is very important nowadays to actually pick as much as possible from the release point which side the ball might turn, and try and play ahead of your pad, right? Ahead of your pad, but making sure your head is on top of the ball, because the moment your head falls back and your body weight is somewhere in between or behind, chances are, look at my bat face. Right? We want that bat face to be acute, so that even if you don't hit it on the middle of the bat, because of the bat angle, it will not carry to silly point or short leg or slips for that matter. But the moment my body weight is back and my bat face is a lot straighter, then chances are they will carry. Right? So the idea is to get on top of the ball, keeping my bat angle acute as much as possible, so that even though you don't hit it out of the middle, they don't carry.